In her unconscious state, the woman had no idea where she was being dragged to. When she woke up, she found a burly man standing before her. The next second, a zombie charged out towards the man. Lily quickly got up to run, but the door was firmly locked. Then, the man dispatched the zombie and slowly stood up, revealing that he was Lily's teammate for this mission. However, the man had no intention of completing the mission with Lily. Instead, he took off his shirt, preparing to practice with Lily. The man used a pistol to threaten Lily, but Lily, after all, is a female soldier, and instantly snatched the pistol. The man remained unflustered, as the gun had been empty of bullets all along. Just as he said, facing the physically imposing man, Lily saw no chance of winning, which plunged her into despair. Then, the man charged forward, attempting to overpower her, but Lily, with her agile movements, dodged and engaged in a desperate fight with the man. The man, completely overpowered by Lily's assault, was eventually subdued and knocked to the ground by the very zombie he had just encountered. Seeing this, Lily swiftly bypassed them and ran outside, successfully locking the zombie inside the room at the last moment. After a frantic run to the stairwell, Lily finally stopped to catch her breath after closing the door, but suddenly, elsewhere, her teammates were each carrying out their assigned tasks, and Roberta found herself paired with a man for the mission. Upon arriving at their mission site, the sight of the ground covered in zombie corpses was chilling. Among them was a living zombie, which the man went forward to kill. Roberta did not help but instead took the man hostage from behind, demanding he explain the connection between this place and Zona. The man, completely baffled, quickly clarified that he knew nothing and that many Zona soldiers had already died here, suggesting that a more powerful organization than Zona might be involved. Roberta slowly released the man.
They're using us to clear the Z's. We're gonna be Z's too unless we get this gate open like they want.
Their priority now was to complete the mission quickly. Then, they began to open the door together, but suddenly, a zombie slowly rose to its feet. The sight scared the man, causing him to start backing away in panic. Unexpectedly, the half-bodied zombie, dragging its intestines, lunged at the man. Losing his balance, the man fell to the ground, and the zombie took the opportunity to pounce on him. Roberta, seizing the moment, connected an electrical wire to the zombie and electrified it.
Coming in hot!
On the other side, after waking from her unconscious state, Lily found the zombie dead. Even more fortunately, Lily discovered sunlight and birds circling above the staircase, indicating that the exit was just above. But the next second, a piercing sound rang in her ears again. When they woke up again, everyone was locked in a cage surrounded by numerous zombies outside. Murphy wonders what this is all about and the man says it means it's time to eat. Then, a loud noise came from above, and the next second, a lot of dog food was sprayed out from the pipes.
Dog food. I love dog food.
Puppy chow's my stuff, man.
Just at that moment, Lily woke up. She said she saw sunlight in the staircase. Hearing this, Roberta suddenly saw hope. Then, everyone gathered to sketch a rough map of the explored area and successfully located the staircase. Just then, the piercing sound came again. Roberta urged everyone to quickly assemble at the staircase entrance. No sooner had she spoken than everyone fell into unconsciousness. After coming out of the box again, Roberta saw Murphy. They hurriedly followed the route towards the staircase. Soon, they arrived at the place Lily mentioned. At that moment, Doc and the others also arrived one after another. Now only Lucy was missing. Roberta suggested going up to check. Maybe Lucy was waiting for them upstairs. Then they reached the ground, and the feeling of seeing the light again was really good. But before they could rejoice, the piercing sound rang out again, and in the blink of an eye, everyone was back in the boxes. Just when everyone was starting to despair, Lucy, who hadn't arrived earlier, opened the door, and then she rescued everyone one by one. With the previous experience, everyone quickly reached the staircase, but just as they were about to leave, the man who had teamed up with Roberta before stopped them with a gun, refusing to let them go at all costs. It seemed that the mastermind behind the scenes had tasked him with stopping everyone. Just then, Lucy's zombie boyfriend appeared and took down the man, and everyone fled outside upon seeing this. But Lucy didn't want to leave her zombie boyfriend behind, so she ran down to pull him up. Seeing this, Murphy also followed, forcefully pulling Lucy away from the zombies, and then everyone escaped outside one after another. But just as the danger was averted, Murphy fell heavily to the ground. Everyone rushed to help him upon seeing this, but Murphy slowly lost consciousness and began to tremble violently. Doc lifted Murphy's sleeve and discovered he was bitten by a zombie. The top priority now was to quickly leave the place, so everyone could only support Murphy and walk away. After walking a distance, they arrived at the place where they were initially captured. Many supplies from the survivors were scattered on the ground. It seemed that many people had been taken away for tasks. They picked up the fallen supplies from the ground and quickly drove away from this haunted place. At this time, Murphy's condition looked very bad, and he was in danger of losing his life at any moment. Doc hurriedly asked Roberta what to do, but Roberta had no response. She had once again fallen into a hallucination.
Lieutenant Warren?
At that moment, Roberta's dreams began to guide the way, and then she executed a sharp drift at the steering wheel, nearly flipping the car over. The companions, baffled, bombarded Roberta with questions, but she did not utter a word until the car stopped at a human modification center. After getting out of the car, Murphy insisted he could walk on his own, but no sooner had he spoken than he vomited blood. Seeing this, Doc hurriedly helped Murphy up, suggesting they go inside to see if they could find some medicine. At this moment, a few zombies burst out from behind, and 10K and Lily told everyone to go ahead while they covered the rear. After helping Murphy onto a table, Doc began searching for first aid items, but these were already used up. At this point, Murphy was about to have a cardiac arrest, leaving everyone at a loss.
We have to save him!
I know what you're thinking, but
I have to try!
Lucy, don't.
Lucy's bite immediately made Murphy sit up, but just a few seconds later, he fell into a coma again. However, this method was definitely effective, so Lucy continued biting Murphy. Sure enough, Murphy gradually regained consciousness.
I'm not dead yet.
No, you shan't.
By now, Lily was almost unable to hold off the zombies at the door, and 10K had to go help. Roberta, guided by her dreams, walked to the control panel. The staff at the panel died horrifically, as if they had undergone some genetic modification. Then, Roberta closed her eyes, and guided by her dreams, she found a set of keys. In the blink of an eye, as soon as Doc turned his head, Roberta had already entered the room alone. Without paying attention to Roberta, Doc quickly checked Murphy's condition, which seemed to have improved a lot. But Lucy faced a new situation. She had turned into a middle-aged woman. Murphy looked at his daughter with sorrow. It seemed that the bites were at the cost of consuming life force. By this time, Roberta had found the entrance to the laboratory, which was filled with many sealed human tissues, giving off a creepy vibe. Then, Roberta discovered a locked room. She slowly closed her eyes, and the password appeared before her, as if these things were sealed in her mind. Roberta then opened the door and the illusion immediately appeared before her eyes. Roberta walked in without saying a word. In front of her was a sealed gas canister. Roberta inputted the password again and took it out. As some gas leaked from it, Roberta took a syringe from above and without hesitation injected it into her arm. The next second, Roberta lost consciousness and fainted. On the other side, sensing Roberta was in danger, Lucy had 10K and Lily quickly followed to find Roberta. Soon, they found the laboratory Roberta had entered. The human tissues in these bottles and jars made 10K and Lily feel nauseated, but what was even more revolting was yet to come.
That's appetizing. Zombie.
By this time, Murphy had improved a lot. He insisted that Doc go down to help, assuring that Lucy could take care of him. Seeing Murphy's determination, Doc finally left with peace of mind, warning Lucy not to recklessly use her life force to bite people anymore. Then, Doc also arrived in the laboratory. Unexpectedly, Doc, being a doctor, was most afraid of these excised human tissues. Seeing the experimental live zombies scared him so much that he screamed for his mother. Just then, Doc felt something nearby staring at him, scaring him into turning around and bumping into a jar. Ironically, it was filled with fingers. His biggest fear. Terrified, Doc picked up a small hammer and started frantically smashing.
Doc!
After the incident, Doc felt something crawling inside his clothes. He hurriedly took off his clothes, but it was already too late. A zombie finger had burrowed into his belly. Seeing this, Doc could only helplessly scream for help. 10K and Lily quickly ran over to ask what happened. Doc explained that a zombie finger had burrowed into his stomach and was moving around inside. 10K, seeing the situation, took a knife to dig out the finger, but the finger moved too quickly to locate precisely. Having no choice, Doc had to steady the finger and then let 10K swiftly operate. With one cut, the finger was successfully removed. Lily, upon seeing this, stood up and stomped the finger into mush. This event would probably haunt Doc for life. Just as they were celebrating their narrow escape, suddenly a noise came from behind. Doc said it was the same sound that caused him to accidentally knock over the jar. They decided to investigate, but the scene before their eyes immediately shocked them.
Well, judging by our surroundings, nothing good.
Seems as afraid of us as we are of it.
Where's Maury?
On the other hand, Roberta woke up from her coma, puzzled by the gas canister in her hand and its purpose, yet the scene before her felt very familiar. Then, Roberta approached a desk, hoping to find some clues. She saw Dr. Caligari's experimental data in a notebook, which recorded cases of human tissue transplantation, but nothing about Roberta's hallucinations. At that moment, 10K and the others finally laid eyes on the monster.
You freak.
10K took the initiative to attack, but the monster was tough and thick-skinned. 10K was caught by it after just a couple of moves. Lily followed closely with a knife but was also subdued by the monster with one hand. Seeing this, Doc also went forward with a hammer to fight, saving 10K and Lily, but was then firmly grasped by the monster. The four-armed monster began to violently beat Doc, and Lily, seeing the dire situation, hurriedly picked up a handgun from the table to provide support. However, this action angered the monster, which also pulled out a submachine gun and began shooting with proficient skill. They were scared and quickly hid.
That ain't no regular Zeke.
Did somebody shoot at us?
Fortunately, the monster ran out of bullets, and they started to attack the monster in turns again, but this creature was too powerful. They were no match for it. At this moment, Lily was tightly bound by the monster and was about to suffocate when Roberta timely arrived. Roberta shouted Dr. Caligari's name at the monster, and surprisingly, the monster seemed to understand human speech and slowly turned around.
I'm right in front of you.
On the other hand, Murphy was in the process of easing Lucy's conflict, but suddenly Murphy fell into a coma again for some unknown reason. An anxious Lucy knelt on the ground, not knowing what to do. Murphy, knowing his time was short, began to sincerely apologize to Lucy.
I'm so sorry. The biggest mistake in my life was breaking up our family.
It's okay. It's okay. You don't need to worry about that, okay?
Just after Lucy spoke, Murphy began to tremble all over and then vomited a mouthful of fresh blood. Anxious, Lucy wanted to call for Roberta and the others for help, but no one responded. The scene switches back to Roberta. Upon seeing Roberta, Caligari is visibly surprised. Clearly having met her before, Roberta asked Caligari what had happened to him to end up like this. Caligari explained that they were originally researching limb transplantation experiments between humans and zombies, but an accident occurred with an assistant turning into a zombie, and he was unfortunately bitten on the arm. Before the infection spread, Caligari amputated his arm and transplanted a zombie's onto himself. Caligari thought he could inherit the zombie's immortality, but the zombie gradually took over his body, and years later, he turned into this monster. Afterwards, Caligari pleaded with Roberta to end his life, stating that being parasitized by another was too agonizing to bear. After hearing this, Roberta agreed to Caligari's request, and the behemoth knelt down to embrace death.
We give you mercy.
On the other side, Murphy woke up from his coma, finding himself much better, but when Lucy looked up, she had become an old lady. Murphy immediately understood everything. Lucy had used up all her life force to save him. Seeing Lucy, who was about to age away in his arms, Murphy was especially saddened. Eventually, Lucy passed away in Murphy's embrace. At this moment, Roberta and the others came up and saw the scene, immediately plunging everyone into sorrow.
July was in almonds, but the tide hate to see